What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? YouTube, it's your boy M. Trail. Today we're here with a tutorial about music video editing. I've gotten questions about how I set up my workflow, how I set up my projects when I edit music videos. So basically I'm gonna walk you through a tutorial about how I do the process. I'm glad that you're watching my channel, my particular video on it, but this is a technique that I got from YC Imaging. If you don't know who YC is, you definitely need to look him up, especially if you're serious about music video editing. He's probably one of the best online on YouTube that's doing it right now. So without rambling too much, we're gonna jump right into it. So we're gonna open up Premiere Pro. We're gonna use Gunna's video. The same day that I started working on this video, I found out later that night that he was actually killed. So rest in peace to Gunna OTEP. Condolences to his family and his friends. He is definitely a fantastic talent that we will dearly miss. Kind of puts the pressure on me because I was the last individual to work with him, and these are the last two music videos. So in this tutorial, we're gonna actually see footage of his last music video. Going into this, I'm assuming that you've already went out and you've set your project up or your plan to shoot the video. You've executed your plan, you've collected your footage, and we've pulled everything back into our computer, and we're basically going through the process. What I am showing you is how I set up every single music video. Like I said, this is a technique that I picked up from YC Imaging and also some techniques that I learned in school about organization, and we'll start there first. So the majority of my footage is always kept on a hard drive. I have two hard drives here. The footage for these music videos is on my Elements hard drive. We'll go to GHME archive. You see I have a folder called Music Video Projects. Click in there, folder for Gunna, and we're gonna work on the 1942. So this is where all of my footage lives. My projects, I tend to set up inside of Dropbox, and this is something that I learned recently. As you can see, I have a Premiere Pro folder inside of my Dropbox that I kind of keep all of my projects, not necessarily the footage, but the projects. This is a former video that we did, or previous video that we did. If this is easier for you, if you use a cloud-based service like Dropbox or like Google Drive, you could keep it there. Of course, you need to be in Wi-Fi in order to access your footage, unless you pull it back onto your computer every time that you edit. We're gonna edit the 1942 freestyle video. So we open that up, which I already have open, and I have everything exported in. But we're gonna start from scratch. So I will show you how to do this. One thing that I truly like about Premiere is you get these tabs at the top that kind of outlines a workflow for you. You may figure out a better system for you, but Premiere is very good at kind of laying things out flat for you so you know how to go. So a quick overview of these. Of course, the learning is gonna be tutorials on how to do this type of stuff. As you can see, import your media, preparing clips for editing, all that. Assembly is pretty much that, putting all of your clips inside of your timeline. Editing, again, is a more defined assembly. Color correction or color, your color tab is going to be your color correction, working in Lumetri. Effects is applying all your effects. I'm finna say, hope you don't crash on me. Effects is applying all of your effects, your transitions, things like that. The audio tab will bring up your audio mixer. Now, if you're working on a music video, you may not use the audio tab as much unless you have specific dialogue that you're cutting in. So you're doing more of a storyline type music video, and you have dialogue that you're going to use in the music video. If you don't, and you're primarily just going to use the audio track from the song, then you won't worry about this as much, but it's there. Graphics is pulling in or making your captions, your titles, any subtitles, subtext, stuff like that. And then libraries If you have any custom LUTs or lookup tables, you will find these in the library tab. As you can see, I have a couple made, but I typically start right at the editing tab. So like I stated, I previously started working on this video. So I'm just gonna go back in here and erase everything out so we can start from the very beginning. To maximize your media screen, all you simply have to do is highlight this area and then click the tab button. Now, once we get back to the screen that says import media to begin, you simply just want to press Control-I or Command-I if you're on a Mac. And then locate your footage and click import. Now what I do is I create specific bins for everything that I'm working on. As you can see, this is my main footage folder that we pull in. One thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a decent organization system. What you don't want to happen is you're editing away from your main workstation. If you don't have everything together and organized in the proper way, or you don't take every single thing with you, you're going to get an error message. It's going to be locate your media. Where is this media located? And if you don't have it, then you're going to get this red screen that says offline, which is, this will show up in your final edit if you don't relocate that footage. So now that we have our main footage folder imported, I come back to the project folder and I like to make bins specifically for what we're working on. So I'm gonna make one bin for all my performance takes, and I know I just spelled that wrong, don't judge me. I'm gonna make another bin, and you could simply right click, new bin. I'll make one for my B-roll footage, and then I'm gonna make another bin for my text files, which would be my title screens, the artist name, and things like that. You can make as many bins as you want, just depending on, you might want to make a specific bin for your audio. Like I said, if you're bringing in dialogue or you have a specific acting scene in the video that has dialogue to it, you might want to make one specifically for dialogue. If you're using any third-party stock footage, you might want to make a specific bin for your stock footage. You can make as many bins as you want. These are all the ones that I need for this video. So we're going to come back out. Now, in order to make a timeline, there are two different ways to make a timeline. The easiest way is to find a clip. Well, let me go back. When you're doing music videos, you always want to make sure that your timeline is set the exact way you want your final output to be. For instance, you want the project to come out and be cinematic. And we understand that cinematic mode is typically when you shoot at 24 frames per second. So we want our final export to be in 24 frames per second. So we want our timeline to be 24 frames. Depending on what type of camera you have and the type of footage that you want to shoot. You want to shoot slow motion footage, then you may shoot at 60 frames per second. So the easiest way to do this is to find a clip that is 24 frames per second. And how we check that is by looking at our metadata. Metadata is the information that the camera records to the files. So we can see here, frame rate 23.976, 24 frames per second. This is a clip that we want, and it's shot in 4K definition. Metadata is just going to tell you a bunch of information about the clips. So the easiest way to do this, to set your sequence, is simply drag this entire thing, drop it here. Now our sequence is set. It's going to be set to the exact properties that the actual clip is set to, and we don't have to worry about getting that error message saying our sequence is different from our clip settings. Do we want to change the sequence to match the clip settings? We've already done this. Another way you could do this is to actually go to new item, sequence, which will open up this new sequence tab, and it gives you a bunch of presets for different types of cameras and things. If you're shooting on a red, you have presets for red cameras. If you're shooting on a DSLR, a lot of people are shooting on DSLRs. They have one for DSLRs. Sony's shoot or record their footage in AVCHD, so they have settings for that as well. This is another way. Now, if you wanted to create your sequence like this, you could simply come here, find your particular preset for the type of camera that you have, and do it that way. So my camera is a Nikon 3300. That's what I shoot most of my music videos on. So I would come here, digital SLR, 24 frames per second, and I'd click OK. We've already set a timeline up, so we don't have to go through that process. I just wanted to show you that. So now we have our footage imported. We have the audio track imported. We need to know what we're referencing. So the first thing I do, and I'm glad that screen just came up, inside of Premiere Pro, the program crashes a lot. So you want to make a habit of saving and saving often. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in our audio track. So this is the main file that I'll use for the video. Now I want to come inside of here. And that's the wrong button. I'm going to hit M for marker. And this is basically going to make me a reference point to where I am going to line up all of my performance takes. So we have those all separate. Actually, we haven't done that yet. I'll start it over. So we want to come back here. And I'll just maximize this. And the way that you could do this is by pushing the tab button to get you in and out from your overall project to this particular screen. I clicked on the wrong one. Make sure you highlight the screen that you want, which is our media. Push the tab button. Now it's going to show us everything in here. Now, by looking at the different times, you can kind of guesstimate which ones are your performance takes, which ones are your B-roll, stuff like that. So my performance takes, the song is about 3 minutes long. I think his actual verses, or when he's rapping, is about 2.5 minutes. So I'm looking, I see 221, 211, 226, 228. These are more than likely my performance takes. 222, 219, 230. Highlight these three. We're gonna drag them back up into the main project folder and drop them in performance. So now I've identified and I've separated exactly what my performance takes from my B-roll. We'll go ahead and finish and do that for all of the performance takes. 222, 219, 230, 228. So all four of these are also performance takes. We'll do the same thing for our B-roll. Go back to our main footage folder. Find the B-roll. I think these were some test clips that I was doing. I know this is B-roll, this is B-roll, this is B-roll. I think this was a clip that we started. That's not B-roll. These three we know are. Just drag those into B-roll. Back to our main I came back out and I came to the main project. So we'll go back, find the rest of the B-roll. This is a slow motion clip. These four are B-roll. So we'll drag these four up into B-roll. Drop them in there. You may have noticed right now I don't have a lot of footage. I didn't shoot a lot for this video. We got this pretty done. I think we shot this video in maybe 30-45 minutes. It was a really quick shoot. This is my timeline. I'm just gonna come back and rename it. And this is something that I like to do as well. Just name it timeline so we know what we're looking at when we're inside this folder. Okay, let's go back out. We have the audio track set in. We have a marker set for a reference point of where we should line each clip up with. So now we'll just go back into our performance folder. We will find a clip, and I think I already have one pulled up. And we're just gonna line up each performance take based off of the times.
Step up a little bit right there.
Now that it should be somewhere close to where our reference point is. All right, so we're just gonna come back in, and this part is very important. You need to hear, in order to make it easier, always line your clips up with the audio. A simple way to do this, if the audio is loud enough, we're gonna drop this right here because that's our reference point. You can look at the wave files from the audio and kind of see how close you are, how off you are. It looks, before we even play this, it looks as if we are in the wrong spot. It's close, but it's not accurate. So we're just gonna drag this back a little bit. These waves look a lot closer together. You can look at these heels and kind of see we're still in the wrong spot. Just gonna drag that back. Now it looks as though we're probably in the right spot. This seems to look pretty similar. And we'll just go back to the beginning of this clip, hit play. You wanna make sure you're in the right spot, excuse me. You wanna make sure you're in the exact right spot. Something that I always do is I wanna mute the audio from the camera and check the lip sync. That looks really good. We know we're where we need to be. So now I'm just gonna come back in and I'm going to unlink these clips and delete that audio. And we're still exactly where we need to be. If you want to keep up with what clips you're working on, you can come back inside and rename these. You can actually do this before or after. He was standing in the living room of the house on this clip, so we'll just name this living room 1. Hit OK. Now you can do this here, or you can actually rename your track here, or rename the clip inside of your media folder, and this will automatically transfer over when you pull it into the timeline. So we'll find the next one. We'll choose this one. I'll go ahead and rename it so we don't have to do it in the next. We'll name this staircase. I hit the wrong button. I'm on camera and I can't type today. We'll click this one and repeat the same process we did to line this one up. So again, we'll come back. We'll check and see how close we are. This doesn't look bad. We might be slightly off. We'll just pull it back. That seems like it's a bit too much. That looks good. Again, we're gonna unlink the clips, erase the audio, and we're gonna repeat this same process for all of our performance takes. So now we have all of our clips in place. We have our audio in place. The next thing that we want to do is actually start making cuts. Again, I always begin at my reference point. So a couple of ways to do this, and let me make this mention. No two people will edit the exact same way. I don't care if you have the same footage. No two people will edit in the exact same way. For me, editing is a feel. Editing is a rhythm. People have different rhythms, so you'll edit in a different way. You just kind of find what works for you, what feels good to you. Editing is art. It's very stylistic. So whatever style you prefer, that's what you're gonna go with. So when I do this, or when I start making my cuts, I typically tend to either A, cut to the beat, or B, cut to the artist's lyrics. I think in the past for Gunna, I have always cut to his lyrics, and I'll probably do the same thing here. How I'm making these whole cuts, I'm simply pressing Shift Command K. If you are on Windows, it would probably be Shift Control K. So we have all of our cuts made. And this is not necessarily perfect. As you come back and start making your selections, you may find that other spots feel better than others. You'll simply just make the changes. From this point, one thing that I always want to do is you want to clean up your audio track. If you don't, sometimes you might get that little double sound, like if we actually cut, or we made a selection, or we made a cut on, let's say, the kick drum. You might get it in both regions if you don't come back and clean this up. So we'll just simply come up here. We're gonna erase all of this. And then we're gonna drag in the audio track again, and everything is still in the correct spot. You didn't do right, I didn't. Okay. And now we'll go back. Everything is like it needs to be. All right. So now, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna do this a quick way. And again, this is never perfect. Once you actually get into it, then you'll come back and you'll make stylistic changes. But all we're gonna do now is just come through here and start making cuts. Let me give myself a little bit more real estate so I can see. So we have cuts on all 7 tracks, or all 7 video files, and we'll just come back and we're gonna randomly start taking them out, so we can give ourselves a basic, or what's called a rough draft of the video. Gives us a place to start from. This is not perfect. Again, you may want to actually watch each clip and find what looks better. That's perfectly fine. If you're trying to get this done, if you're in a crunch for time, you basically just want a place to start. So by doing it like this, it gives you that. Again, everything is still here. If you find a section that feels better than others, then you'll just extend the clip out. Let's take that one out just so we can have variety. And you'll go through and you'll do this for the entire track. It's not really necessary for me to go through and do this for the entire song. I just want to be able to show you how I go about it, how you come up with your rough draft. We're about halfway through the actual video, I think, at this point. Let's see. Here we're roughly halfway through it. And as you can see, now we're building the timeline up. So we know we're gonna have those stylistic cuts that kind of gives us that rough draft. Another thing that I don't like to do that will slow you down tremendously is if you try to do this cut by cut. So typically what I do is I just come through here, I'll make all of my cuts without going backwards, because going backwards, looking at it, you're just going to start second guessing yourself and you're going to spin circles. You're going to burn a lot of time basically doing nothing. Once you get this all done and you can see it as a whole, it just makes it a lot easier. So this is typically why I just come through. I'll start making cuts like this, pretty random, and then I'll watch it back when I can see it as a whole to get a feeling for it. Now, again, I mentioned the proxies. Once you go to playback, and we're actually going to watch this in real time as we edit, this is when it might start getting choppy. By making the proxies, this will help it run a lot smoother while you're working. So we got about halfway through the song. We can come back and look at it.
They told me, shoot for the stars instead of shooting up cars. Need a bigger rifle if I'm shooting that far. Aim high, could got my brain fried in the mall trying to figure out what money can't buy. I can't lie, you know we fuck with the fly shit, designer shit. But you ever think about who designer shit?
See right there, it started slowing down. That's why you should make the proxies. But as you can see, now we have what looks like the beginnings of a music video. So once you get to the end of this, your next step would be to bring in any B-roll that you have. So here is a clip of, I got the back of his jersey, and this is actually shot in 120 frames per second. I shot this video on the Sony A7S or the A7S2. I said that wrong. Yeah, A7S2. I have another clip of when he walked into a restaurant. What, did I not bring it in? B-roll. Yeah, I think this is one of my, I'll use this as a point of reference. Let's just wait for my computer to catch up. Here we go. All right, so we had actually went and picked up lunch for everybody at the shoot at a popular Mexican restaurant. And this is just a clip of him walking into the restaurant. Again, it's shot at 120 frames per second. So if you already know, so you went the proper way and you did a treatment and you created your shot list, you know exactly where your specific B-roll cut should go, then once you get to this process, you're just going to place them wherever they need to be. Of course, this is basically a freestyle video, so it was a run and gun shoot. So we're just going to randomly, I'm working on the wrong thing, we're just going to randomly place the B-roll in. So I know which part of the clip I want to use. We're just going to grab, we don't need the audio, there is no audio anyway. I'm just going to grab it and place it somewhere.
I can't lie, you know we fuck with the fly shit, designer shit.
And I could come right here and just put in my B-roll.
You ever think about who designer shit?
Now you're wondering why it's smaller than the actual track. That is because this video was shot in 4K definition, but the slow motion actually captures in 1080. So we're simply just gonna go to the effect controls panel and scale it up to 200%. Now we're in the same, everything is correct.
You ever think about who designer shit?
Always make sure you got your snap tool on, and that'll keep you, basically what that's gonna do is when you're moving clips around and you want to place it where your cut is, I want to place it at the beginning of these. If you don't have the snap tool on, you might be slightly over it and get that little, as you can see frame by frame, I'm slightly off. And you can see by how much. By turning on the snap tool, it's going to give you this black line. It's always just going to make you snap to where you want to be. Hope that's helpful to you.
You ever think about who designed this shit?
So again, we're gonna basically, now that we have our B-roll in place, I'm just gonna come back and do the exact same thing. And I just made that cut. If I want to snap it up to the next line, we'll make a cut there. I'll drag this back, snap it to the next line.
You ever think about who designed this shit? It's a hole in our boat, but who designed the ship? They don't support us or endorse us, why we buy this shit? You can't be major when you focused on the minor shit.
And for the most part, that's it. Very, very quick. Helps you. This method very much helps your overall time. You sit here and you try to find, we're going to go through each one of these. We have B-roll right there, but we're going to go through all 7 takes. So we're going to watch this piece by piece, this 4-second clip. And we're going to go through and erase them and keep coming back and watching this to find exactly the one we like. It's going to take you all day. So by doing it this way, you get to see it as a whole. It's going to speed up your overall process. And you'll still be happy with your final result. So for the most part, we've created our rough cut. You can go back and you can watch it as a whole. Then you find what you don't like, what you do like. I'll just erase this for a second. So we don't like that particular cut, and we think one of these clips look a lot better. Like again, all you simply have to do is just drag it over to extend the clip out, to make any changes. But we have a starting format, and that's what we want. But for the most part, that is it. You'll go through, you'll do the same thing for the rest of your video. You'll watch it as a whole. You'll see where you need to make the adjustments, and you're halfway through the process. And I'm gonna end this particular tutorial right here. I'll come back on the next one and we'll actually get into the color grading part and applying our effects, our transitions and things of that nature. But yeah, that's it. So if you have a method that you use that is different from this, that works better, or if you heard me say anything wrong, please let me know that. Drop it down in the comments. If this video has actually been helpful to you, please like this video and stay subscribed to the channel. Click the notification bell so you can know every single time I post the next video in this particular series of music video editing. And that's it, man. So yeah, I hope this is helpful for you. Stay tuned. I got a lot more of these coming. Like I said, R.I.P to Gunna. Look his music up. Support it. He's actually a very, very dope artist. If you've never heard of him, you can pick up his latest tape on all streaming music platforms, Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, whatever. Keep his legacy alive. Continue to hear his voice by listening to the music. And that's it. So we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.